and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, and today we are finishing off the EUREKA box set 4K edition of Police Story with Police Story 3. Holy fucking shit piece, yes! Police Story 3 is incredible. This is my second time watching this film. As you can tell, I'm quite excited. Just finished watching it. My god, this film is so fucking badass. It's so cool. And this is a great way to end off the trilogy. And just a great addition overall from EUREKA. Police Story 3 on 4K edition. Absolutely fantastic. This is a really good 4K transfer. Comes with the original Hong Kong theatrical cut, which I absolutely recommend because it is the best version of the film, and also features the US version of the film Supercop, which is retitled Supercop in the US. An incredible edition, great 4K transfer, sound mix, fantastic, packed full of extras, some really interesting and behind the scenes. Let's not waste any time, let's dive into the action-packed, kick-assery Jackie Chan, Michelle Yeoh, Police Story 3, let's go.
What we need is a Supercop. Supercop? 咁一定好。
Police Story 3, or Supercop as it's known in the US, released in 1992, directed by Stanley Tung, who did Rumble in the Bronx, fantastic kind of US kind of introduction, proper US introduction to Jackie Chan and his level of fighting and action. And he went on to do Police Story 4, First Strike, which makes sense after the success of this film. Fantastic director, great collaborator with Jackie Chan, and it makes sense for Jackie Chan to take a step back from directing as he did the first two entries and focus more on the character, focus more on the action, more on the stunts. It's pretty clear that Jackie Chan wanted to step up this franchise to a whole new level, and after kind of the lukewarm reception from Police Story 2, him doing more crazier, more bigger projects, more insane kind of stunt work, more insane kind of action, and more collaborations with bigger kind of Hong Kong stars and international stars. Golden Harvest basically giving him unlimited funding with something like Operation Condor 2, for example. He definitely wanted to come back to this franchise in a really big way and kind of make a big statement for kind of the 90s kind of Hong Kong action films and saying, hey look, I'm here to play, I'm setting the bar yet again from Police Story 1. Not just starring in his own movies, but directing, producing, having a bigger kind of foresight into kind of the international market and kind of what plays well, what people want to see, and creating movies that basically work with not just on Hong Kong cinema, but also within the US, and kind of translating that kind of action kind of image he wants, and that kind of persona and that kind of light-hearted fun, but also delivering serious level of kick-ass action. He's very clever in this film. He knew when to take a step back from directing duty, just doing more bigger, crazier stunts, more death-defying kind of action set pieces, and kind of understanding where he wants to be in terms of the market and where he wants to go. And bringing in legendary actress Michelle Yeoh into this film was very smart and very beneficial to the film itself in terms of rebranding Police Story, giving that fresh coat of paint, giving that kind of really awesome kind of image. Right there, the poster is so simple. It is two legendary kick-ass legends of Hong Kong cinema just on a front poster with guns in a Police Story movie. You know you're in for a good time. You know you're going to get double dose of the action. And Michelle Yeoh at this point was definitely headlining a lot of the kind of major kind of Hong Kong movies, with going from Yes Madam to the In Line of Duty series, Magnificent Warriors, really kind of demonstrating how popular she's becoming in that kind of market, and really demonstrating how good of an actress she is, how good of a fighter she is, doing almost the same level of stunts and action choreography, and having them two kind of collaborate together in one film. And still to this day, the film delivers. The film keeps up to the level of what a Police Story film should be. The first film in my eyes is absolute perfection. It is a great introduction film. As mentioned in that review, it was my first kind of, Hong Kong movie to get into that kind of Hong Kong genre and to play into Jackie Chan. And I think Police Story 3 does the exact same thing again, but almost like 7 years later, keeping up with the level of Hong Kong cinema action up to that point. Keep in mind, during the kind of mid-80s, all the big players were coming out, all the big stars, Michelle Yeoh, obviously Jackie Chan, Jet Li, so many big names, Chung Yun-fat with the kind of John Woo movies, so many big players, so many big directors, so many defining kind of Hong Kong movies happening during that kind of decade. And Jackie Chan had a big task on his hand. The same level of energy, the same level of enthusiasm in terms of what makes a fantastic, not only a fantastic Hong Kong movie, action-based movie, but what makes a good movie in general. This film has it all. It has a fantastic, tight, well-constructed, well-told kind of narrative, going from Hong Kong to China to the kind of outback jungles of a private militia kind of group with crazy kind of levels of Eastern Condors / kind of Rambo Part 2 kind of action set pieces with explosions and kind of grenades and machine guns, rocket launchers, to the fantastic landscape, open daytime landscape city. The storyline for Police Story 3 is absolutely fantastic. It's wild, it's bonkers, it has so much escalation in the film, not within its action set pieces, which by the way have the most death-defying stunts, and both actors have gone on record to say they've almost been seriously injured on the film with that fantastic kind of third act. but the film knows when to be quiet, it knows when to be small, it knows when to keep the pace at the right level. It brings back comedy in the most naturalistic way. The comedy is kind of situational, it's kind of accurate and kind of true to the characters. There's some good sense of kind of banter and kind of relationships, not only between Jackie Chan and kind of the uncle's character, but May's character. Some of the kind of the chemistry and the kind of humor between Jackie Chan and Michelle Yeoh's character is brilliant. The film is so seamless when it goes from the big action set pieces to the more quieter, kind of more grittier, kind of tension-filled kind of moments with Jackie Chan being undercut, alongside some fantastic performances from our main villain characters, which this time around are much more memorable, much more kind of mean-spirited and much more aggressive compared to the Police Story 2's villains, which were a lot more kind of forgettable. This time going a lot more international, going a lot more crazier. You get much more richer locations, you get some fantastic, gorgeous kind of scenery with the kind of the daytime and night type sequences. You get the outback jungles, you get kind of fantastic boat sequence, you get a brilliant daytime kind of rescue sequence. All of this leads into the absolute kick-ass, sweet third act action set piece, going from a daylight prison rescue to a helicopter sequence to a train yard scrap between helicopter and a kind of an ongoing train that's actually live. All of this practical, on stunt, on location, an amazing cinematography, amazing death-defying stunts, crazy level of action with gunplay, explosions, fighting, a bit of comedy mixed between, a celebration of what Police Story is. Alongside the action, the storytelling being so on the point and being so precise, one of the things I really appreciate about Police Story 3 is the characterization and the further expansion and the kind of relationships back and forth alongside the new players alongside the old ones. I'm a big fan, as I mentioned before, in exploring the relationship between Jackie and May's character, and I think this one, is quite an interesting kind of continuation of that relationship. As you know from the first two reviews that I've done, I'm a really big fan of that relationship, and I think it's really interesting to see how the series have kind of continued to kind of push them, even though technically they really shouldn't be together, with the level of kind of back and forth kind of arguments and breakups with the first movie, her being the butt of the joke and her kind of getting in the way and her kind of causing some of the problems, and Jackie being a bit more arrogant and being a bit more kind of, you know, cocky and just not really giving a shit, even though he kind of does. The second film really kind of dives more into their relationship from that kind of first half and the consequences and the aftermath of the first movie, and, you know, them kind of trying to figure out if they should be together, being the fact that his job is so intense, so demanding, him being a cop. And one of the things I really loved about Police Story 2 was her kind of coming to the decision of, you know, I fell in love with you despite you being a cop, but also that aspect is also making me lose you in the process, and they kind of have to find the way back again as the film went along, and that really plays a lot into the kind of the third act of Police Story 2, which I really did appreciate. So those two characters have been through a lot back and forth together, and they've been through the absolute worst. In this one, she is a bit more sidelined. You know, Maggie Cheung is absolutely fantastic in this film, but she does play a really good important role within the third act. She's kind of got a new job. I think she does kind of tourism, kind of for foreigners, and she kind of goes into different locations, and she happens to stumble across the same hotel that Jackie is staying in, and kind of hilarious and Sue happens yet again. But once that, you know, she becomes a little bit of the butt of the joke, she also kind of gets involved in it a little bit, which I think is really appreciated. The fact that she kind of saves Jackie from a kind of an embarrassment sequence where, you know, the villain's about to kind of approach and she kind of slaps him in the face, and, you know, kind of, you know, there's a running joke in that where she kind of thinks she's a prostitute. Which, the fact he's so loyal to me and he really does love and really does care about her, really kind of adds to the kind of franchise in the third act, with her kind of getting involved with the bad guys. And unfortunately for the series, this marks the final appearance of Maggie Cheung as May's character within the Police Story franchise, and the very last shot is her getting thrown off a helicopter and basically getting unconscious, and Jackie Chan having to leave her to chase after the bad guys. That is her last outing as Maggie Cheung plays on the Police Story franchise, being the fact that she wasn't involved in Police Story 4, and there was a kind of a soft reboot with New Police Story and Police Story Lockdown. There is talks of a new Police Story movie coming out this year, 2023. Whether this will be a continuation of that storyline, one of the things I did kind of discuss with my friend is that I would absolutely love to see a kind of final conclusion, continuation of that storyline, sort of like a proper Police Story 4, with having May being involved, Maggie Cheung being involved in that film, and having her as a much more dominant character, a final send-off, a final farewell to both those performances and to both those characters and both those actors within this kind of franchise. Whether they'll explore that within the kind of this next kind of Police Story entry is yet to be seen. One of the things I appreciate in this film is the relationship between Jackie Chan and Michelle Yeoh's character, which they both have a very much more of a mutual kind of respect, kind of almost a kind of a brother-sister kind of relationship, funny enough, being both brother and sisters and undercover identities. Both of them have zero romantic kind of chemistry. Both of them are there to do a task, to do a job, and I really appreciate that. I like the fact that both have different sets of skill sets, different level of authority. Michelle Yeoh's character was definitely a lot more kind of strict, definitely a lot more kind of military mind and operational mind. She's definitely there to get the job done. She's definitely kind of, you know, bouncier in kind of moments. She has a bit more light-hearted moments here and there, but there's no kind of like epic kind of like, you know, falling in love with you kind of thing. There's no that kind of soppy nature. They're both there to do a job and they're both there to get it done, and I really do appreciate it. And the fact they kind of really kind of give her some great action set pieces, with the fact they give her just about as much screen time as Jackie Chan, I think is absolutely brilliant. I think all of our action set pieces are really well done. I think both of them have fantastic screen presence together and away from each other. I think they really kind of dominate this film so goddamn well. Also want to give a shout out to Uncle Bill's character, who's been involved with the franchise from the first movie. I think his relationship and his kind of development from the first one all the way up to kind of Police Story 4, where he has a brief cameo in that one, it's been really fantastic, and I think he's a brilliant actor, has played a lot of Jackie Chan projects with Rumble in the Bronx. Also, in this one, I think he's definitely a lot more looser. I think his kind of comedic timing with his sergeants, with his supervisors, is really funny towards the start of the film. The fact he does a drag sequence within the middle part of the film, I think is really funny, and I think they give him a lot more to do in this one compared to being the voice of reason, because in the first two movies, he's definitely having a bit more of a kind of comedic back and forth, kind of being a sergeant kind of character, and there's some good kind of banter between Jackie and kind of Uncle's character in the first two movies, but I think this one, he plays a little bit more to the film's strengths. I think they definitely know where up to that point where how his character is and how he wants to interact with Jackie Chan, and I think they give him a little bit. Overall, Police Story 3 is an absolute masterpiece. It is on the same level as the first entry. It redefines the genre yet again for the 90s audience. It kind of puts the bar to a whole new level, with Jackie Chan doing the most death-defying stunts, alongside Michelle Yeoh being absolutely phenomenal in this film, probably her best performance up to this point, her allowing her to do, again, great comedic timing, great kind of chemistry with Jackie Chan, brilliant characterizations, brilliant bad guys, great kind of comedy, bringing the comedy element back to the film, brilliant, outstanding storyline that the film delivers in every single way. I absolutely recommend picking up the EUREKA 4K edition box set. Absolutely amazing transfer, packed full of extras. Do not watch the Supercop Miramax version. It's pretty terrible. It offers some really questionable kind of choices in terms of its editing, in terms of its music choices. Definitely don't watch that. Watch the Hong Kong version. Absolutely recommend Police Story 3. What are your thoughts and opinions? Please comment down below. Anytime, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.